Hi, I'm Ann Dilker, and welcome to the Jewelry Making Professor. And today I want to walk you through using Soutache in a lovely little pendant. What we're going to do is just take 3 colors of Soutache and a bunch of different beads and do a freeform pendant. All right, so let's get started. Now, I've already pulled 2 pieces of Soutache. This happens to be the metallic rayon in the bronze. Or, I'm sorry, it's the matte gold. And then I have 2 colors of the aqua. This one happens to be the marine, and this one is the duck. Now, I want to show you what happens when you cut this one, because this is the polyester. And it is just incredible the way this will fray. So what I'm going to do, I've pulled about 9 inches here. I find that's a pretty good start. As soon as I cut this, I want to have some glue or some nail polish. And I've just put some Elmer glue on the end of this. It's just plain white craft glue. And I want to do that to this end as well. This polyester will fray something frightful. So you want to make sure that you cauterize those ends some way. All right, so now I'm all ready to go. And what I've done is I've just selected an assortment of beads that are in a colorway that will work with my 2 primary colors on this. And what I'm going to do is stretch these out. And if you can notice, there is a channel that goes between these 2. If you looked at them on a large side view, what you would see are 2 mountains with a valley in between them. And it's that valley in between where we do the stitching. So what you'll do is line these things up, and this is, I think, frequently referred to as a stack. So you're going to make a stack of Soutache. And I find this stuff is a little bit like wrestling with an octopus. So you kind of want to get this put together. At home, I will sometimes occasionally actually iron this so that I don't have to put up any of the kinks that are in it. But once you get them sort of lined up, what you'll do to get started is take what's called a shaping stitch. And a shaping stitch is different from a stay stitch. And this was one of the most important things that I learned when I actually had the opportunity to meet Amy Sweet McNamara. I don't have a knot tied in this right now, and there's a reason for that. I'm going to show you. This is just fire line that I have on a sharps needle. So I'm just going to go through here, and I'm going to go through all 3 of those pieces. Now what I'm going to do is bring that through. This could be hard to see because the fire line is clear. But don't pull that all the way through because there's no knot in it. And I find that even trying to tie a square knot is usually not good enough on this. So I'm going to come back up through here. I'm going to pull that needle through. And now I'm going to tie a knot. And I just find that if you tie a square knot or a surgeon's knot on this, that's your best start. So the surgeon's knot is just 1 and then, another time around. And so that's got that end started, and I'm just going to go ahead and trim that. Smaller scissors would be better, but all right. So again, I have fire line in here. Now the shaping stitch, what happens with this? I'm going to make this dark blue my inside. And when you're working on this, you're going to try to shape it because I'm going to be bringing it around this bead. So what it means is that the stitches that are on the inside of the curve are going to be shorter in length than the stitches that are on the outside of that curve. And that was the one really important piece of information in the very brief time I got to talk with Amy about working with this. Mostly we talked about business in general. So this is currently on the dark side. And what I'm going to do is put a stitch that's right next to where I've got it on the bottom, but I'm going to angle it so that it goes a little bit further out on that light blue one, if I can get those together there. Okay. Pull that through. And now I'm going to, again, take a longer stitch on this outside, but I'm going to angle it back the other way so that it comes back closer to where that initial stitch on the dark blue side was. And what that does is help me get a curve started. I'm going to do that one more time. So it's close on this side because the dark blue side is my inside, and that's a shorter curve than what I'm going to have coming through the outside. And I can't stress how important a sharp needle is enough. You just, the sharper your needle, the easier this is. And it just goes through. And it comes, whoops, missed the blue one on that. There is a little bit of a deflection when it hits the metallics. I know a lot of people will say, oh, the metallics aren't a problem, but I find that my needle does deflect off those metallics a little bit differently. And let me see, I think I got that one stuck in there, so let's pull that piece out. Okay, so now I'm ready to add the bead because I've got those three kind of started into the stack. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my bead, and I'm using a shell pearl here, a coin shape. I know a lot of people when they first start will tell you to use a round bead. For some reason, I just find that this coin shape is a little bit easier for me when I get started. So what I'm going to do is bring these guys up here to, here's the top of my bead. The top of the bead is right here. So I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to mark that, and I'm just going to come through and bring that in there. So what I've done is I've got this, and I'm going to come around. You don't really have to worry about this too much. There's this tendency to think, oh, I've got to get this perfect. It just has to be perfect the first time, and it really doesn't, because it's very difficult to get this first bead on. And once the first bead is set, you're in pretty good shape. All right, so this string is currently on the outside. And so what I'm going to do is hold that. I'm going to bring this other all the way around. And again, I have to keep it stacked, and that's the hard part of this. Let me just find my thread is right there. Bring this around. Kind of get that started. Don't worry about that if it falls out, because you can always put that back in later. And what I'm going to do, my needle, I'm going to come down here. I come right through here. I want to get these in the stack. I'm going to go right through these three, come out on the other edge, pull that through, and then I'm going to come back and tighten that up a little bit. So put that back where it belongs. Kind of get that put away. And like I said, this first bead, getting him in place, can be the hardest part. All right, there we go. Let's pull that out. Sometimes I actually have to put this down on my lap, which is not really good when we're doing training videos, but pull that through. Pull this through here, just kind of go through. I'm sure that there are other ways to do this. This just happens to be what I happened upon. So you can see now that the bead is surrounded by the soutache. And this will firm up a little bit as you go on. I'm just going to go ahead and go through there one more time, just because it makes me feel better. All right, now, I tend not to do a lot of symmetrical pieces. I'm just going to show you. This is sort of symmetrical, and that doesn't appeal to me nearly as much as something along those lines. So we're going to do something that is not nearly symmetrical here. And my needle is coming out on this side, so I'm going to add something on this side as soon as I get the ends off. And I'm just going to take a bead over here and say, oh, that looks pretty good. Let me do that. And I think I'm actually going to take a little shaping stitch because this is a fair size bead. So again, this light blue now is going to be the inside curve. So I'm going to keep the stitch that's on that inside curve smaller than the stitch that will be on the dark blue. And I'm only going through these 3 this time. I'm not going through the 3 on this side. So let me put a stitch there. Let me come up a little bit and angle this one back towards those stitches that are on the bottom because they're smaller. Get that to go through all 3 of these if we can. Oops. Well, let me turn it around the other way. This actually is a little bit easier if you can pull it down into your lap, but we can't do that with the video camera. Okay, got that. Pull that through. Get the ends out of it. And now I'm just going to put this bead on it. And I find you can use just about any bead. Squares are not quite as easy as the rounds, but just pull that up. And you'll do the same thing. Now you'll just pull these 3 pieces down around. And you'll find that all you need to do is get it about where it needs to be. It doesn't have to be exact. When I first started this, I tried to make everything exact. It made me crazy. So that's about where that needs to be. Just pull that in and then pull that down and snug it up. So I can snug that up. And I'm actually going to find where the hole in the bead is. I'm going to come back down through here and see. Oops. It actually is easier if you don't lose the stack on this. Kind of hold it sideways so that when you're coming back down through, you can hit that valley in all 3 of the pieces. I'm going to come back through the hole in the bead, snug that up, get these pieces on the other side that don't belong in there out. Boom. Snug that up. And I'm going to bring that down around here. Now this is on the inside, so what I think I'll do is take this actually through here. And I find that the more times you go through some of these things, the sturdier it becomes. This polyester especially is extremely soft, so it can get a little bit loosey-goosey. All right, so that'll be ready to firm up. But since my needle is already on this side, I'm just going to go ahead and start working some elements on the other side. I can come back to that one later. All right, I caught this piece in one of those stitches over there, and this is why I was saying that I really like to use Nymo, because sometimes you have to take stitches out, and that's what I just did. I have to take a stitch out. Okay, so now I have undone my boo-boo, and we're back to where we were. I've got 3 on this side and 3 on this side, and since my thread is over here, I'm just going to go ahead and bring another element into play on this side. And let me see. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with kind of this dark cylinder sort of bead. And I'm just going to pull that in. Now this bead's fairly small, so I'm not even going to bother to do a shaping stitch on this one. I'm just going to slide him into place. And I'm going to bring him around, and my thread is coming out here, so that's about there. Just go ahead and bring that through. Kind of snug him up. Bring this Soutache again, keeping it stacked around. Let me snug that up a little bit tighter. I think I'm going to come back through here real quick, see if I can come back through the hole in the bead, and then come through that center 3. What I'm doing is I've come through this bead, and I'm just going to come through the center one more time. Actually, as long as I'm here, I think what I'll do is just bring that through the center. Just pull that through. And then I'm just going to take it through the center and come back to that first side that I was working on. Bring that through there. And what I'm going to do is bring these 3 down and around. Let me see if I can tighten that up a little bit. Wait a minute. Pull that out. This guy I want to have tightened up a little bit. Pull him through here. You don't have to worry if there are a couple of bulges and gaps showing, because I like to do what I call an overbeading process at the end of this, which will cover some of those gaps. Now see, that needle hit the metallic, and it just hit it at a wrong angle. And I find that the metallic tends to make that needle skew a little bit. But again, getting back to those small holes, don't worry about those, because you can always fill those in with beads. And you do put a backer on this thing to kind of firm it up as you're going along. And that backer will cover in some of those holes as well. Let's get that out of there. Okay, there we go. So, bringing this back again. And I'm actually just going to go through here one more time, kind of pull that together, and I'm going to go back one more time so that this is back on that outside. And now what I'm going to do is build an element to go back up there. And I'm going to, maybe I'll pull one of those little cylinder beads that I put on the other side. Put that in there. And again, I'm not doing a shaping stitch on this one, because this is a fairly small bead. This bead's probably about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 millimeters. Just kind of pull it around, find more or less where the top will be. Kind of bring it through. Pull it together, loop this over, kind of loop it over, then I'm going to come back down through, and I do want to find the hole in that bead so I can firm that up a little bit. And this is actually going to go right through there. Pull that taut. Bring this back up here. Whoops. So you can see after you get this started that I just pulled the needle off the end. You can actually kind of tighten that up, and it does get easier once you start working on the stack, keeping it in a stack. But this is again why I use the fire line, because I find that as I'm learning this, that my needle falls off the thread a lot. I don't know if that happens when you're experienced at this. I've only made perhaps a half a dozen pieces, and so as hard as this is to hit with the fire line, if you have the Nymo or the Eslon, which are not monofilaments, and they tend to split a little bit, loading this needle constantly can be a real annoyance. All right, so now we've got the needle back. And I actually came across the back there, which is I probably wouldn't have wanted those to show this soon, but that's going to be by my back side now. And you'll find out what that means a little bit later. All right, so here we are. Let me just go through here. You can just kind of snug these things up as you go along. Actually, I'm going to go right back through there, so you can see where that needle is going. It's going to come up through, pull that taut. I'm going to come around. Actually, I'm just going to come right back through there. But I'm only going to go through the 3 this time. I'm not going to go through the other 3, because I'm going to put, let me grab one of these little guys. This is a miracle bead that I have here. I think they are 4mm miracle beads. I'm not sure it really matters what kind of bead you use as long as you get the colors that you're interested in. All right, so I've got my miracle bead. Let me see him. He's going to kind of lay in there. Let me bring him through here and up. And then I want to go back through. This is where I find round beads are kind of hard, because the round bead gives me a hard time bringing my needle back where I want it. Flat beads I can push out of the way. Coming back up through here. Ouch. That's the hard part about a sharp needle. It's easier to stick yourself with them. So what I'm going to do is go up here. And I'm actually going to put another one of those miracle beads right next to that one. Let's put that in here. As you can see, this is all freeform. I don't follow any patterns on this. I just kind of go where the adding beads lead me. You know what, let me just do, I think I'm going to bring this guy up through here first. I'm having, there we go. Then bring this kind of around here. Come down through one more time. And now I think what I'll do is add a seed bead. So let me grab a little, this is a size 8 silver line something. Which is pretty small. Let's see how he's going to work in there. It'll be okay. I'm just going to go right back up. Taking a stitch back up through the top again rather than bringing that one down, just so I can kind of figure out where that's going to fall in there. And I think I'm going to put another one beside him. Put that in there and bring another one of those little size 8s in. Grab that. And obviously, this is one of those techniques where the more you do it, the easier it's going to become. The hint I will give you is when I first started, and I struggled with a couple of them, was I was trying to keep them too perfect, which will make you crazy when you're first trying to learn this technique. And I find that it doesn't have to be perfect, because you can actually make it look fabulous at the end. And then the other thing is just make sure you use a very, very sharp needle. And I happen to like a small needle, not a long, short needle, I guess is the word, a short as opposed to a long one. All right, so playing around with that. Now, I have a situation here. Let me get this guy back, sort of where he belongs. That usually isn't that hard for me. Let me stick that needle out of the way so I don't kill myself with it. All right, so he's back where he belongs. Now I can take a look at sort of what's going on here. And I'm going to have a situation in here where I can put another fair-sized bead. And I think I'm going to probably do that now. I think I'm going to probably come through here. And let me just see. I think I'm going to put him in there. These are just, that's an 8mm Druck. I don't even know where I got them. I've had them forever, so there's some early acquisitions in my beading career. I suspect that they're just Chinese glass, but I don't really know. All right, so now that I'm back on the side with this guy, let me just come back up here. And let me see what happens if I pull these guys together. No, I don't want to pull this one together yet because I do want to surround this bead. So let me just take one of those shaping stitches and bring that over on the far side of that bead. Let me make sure I'm not losing my needle again. And get that guy back more or less where he belongs. You can push this stuff around pretty much. It's pretty easy. Let me go back up here. Come back down through here, and I'm actually going to bring this over to that center area. So basically what I'm doing is just surrounding the beads, if you will. Let's go through there. This guy wants to hang up. Bring that around there. And that cylinder shape may not have been a great choice for that because it sort of makes it look square, but all right. Now, there's a little bit, I guess I kind of like that. That'll be fine the way it is. You're sort of designing on the fly with this. Now you can sketch these things out so that, see, there's a gap sort of here, and I want to fill that in. I'm going to fill that in with some seed beads. The best designers that work with this will, in fact, sketch these things out first, and a lot of them do a lot of symmetrical pieces. If you're really interested in this, you should go visit the Facebook page that is called The Battle of the Beadsmith. As a matter of fact, this is early June 2013 when I'm shooting this video. They just opened the 2013 battle. I think it, oh, you know what, I don't want that on the outside. I think that battle started June 1st. So they've got over 100 bead artists from around the world that are competing in a single elimination competition tournament. For those of you who understand sports, basically what that means is they pair them randomly against one another, and one person wins and one person loses. And then the remaining pairs are recoupled or repaired against each other until they get down to, I think, the last 5. And when they're down to 5, those 5 compete against one another. It's pretty interesting. There's some fabulous, fabulous pieces, and you should go over to, again, it's Facebook, Battle of the Beadsmith. It's an open group. They will welcome you, and you can see some bead artistry from around the world. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but one of the reasons Soutache became very, very popular in jewelry making is that in many parts of the world, beads are either hard to find or prohibitively expensive. And so those artists decided that they wanted to go ahead and still design, even though they couldn't get the beads. And so they very, very creatively, actually I'm just going to do a shaping stitch here because I don't want to put a bead in there. I want to leave a bit of a hole. Those artists decided that even though they couldn't get beads, they were going to go ahead and design jewelry. And so they are the ones who have brought us this whole concept of using this garment trim in jewelry design. That's going down through the bottom, just because I want to pull that in. Now, I'm going to leave that little hole that's in there by design. I kind of like to leave some openings in it. And this little guy that's kind of flipping around here on the bottom, the first bead that I put in, he'll firm up as soon as I put the backing on him. All right, so I'm going to go through there. And then all I'm going to do is stack these, bring these together, and let me see if I can get, oops, I'm really getting low on this this piece of fire line. So let me just take a look design-wise where I am on this. Get these three together, get those together. All right, I think that I'm going to put a miracle bead right in here, and then I'm going to end this piece and get another piece of fire line. So, once again, having the monofilament when you're trying to reload this needle 857 times is useful. At home I have another magnifier which really helps me load that needle faster, but don't have it with me today. So I'm going to put this guy, oops, no, wait a minute, not yet. This thread is on the outside and I need it on the inside. So let me just stack that back up. Let me just take a stitch through here. Put this little guy on there. And I'm going to kind of stitch him. Oops. Oh, what happened there? Okay. This thread isn't as short as I thought. You do need to watch out for what happened was part of the stitching thread got looped around and I didn't notice it, and I find that that happens less frequently as I get better at this, but it still does happen. And when it does, you kind of have to take the needle out and get it back again. I'm just going to go through here real quick. Oops, the needle came off again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is reload the needle, and then I'm just going to tie off this, and we'll pick up again with a new piece of fire line. So what I did was I ended the first string, and then I just brought the needle in from the outside, and now I'm coming back in here so that it's all tied off and it's ready to go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put one of these oval beads kind of going up this way. And yeah, let me just do that. So I've got the oval bead, and it's going to kind of lay that way. So make sure I got this up here. Again, I want to kind of hold this in its stack. That bead, if I'm getting back in there, is going to come out right about here is where I need to bring that needle through again. Again, you want to try to hold these in that stack, and I missed it on that one. I missed the outside. It's to your advantage to try to keep this needle going through that little valley, if you will. All right. Let's see if I got that. All right. Now I think I've got this wrapped around somehow funny. Let's get that out of there. What did I do? This is what happens when you're working with a longer thread. It's really to your advantage to keep these threads short. Oh, where is this? All right. So, these guys, this threesome is not where it belongs. Let me get this on the outside. Okay. See what I've done over here. Pull that through. See if I've got that right. So that may still have another, nope, that's good. All right, pull that tight. I'm trying to keep these stacks again. Pull that tight. Okay, now this thread is currently on the outside. I want to go back through that bead one more time. So I'm just going to go straight through, bring it back out on the other side, pull that through, make sure I've got a tail on there so that's not going to come off. All right, now where do I want to take this? I think I'm going to actually bring this back down a little bit. I'm going to take another one of those miracle beads. Just put that in here. Bring this down. You can determine whether you want these things to be vertical or horizontal, or kind of where you want them to go. I'm going to bring this guy right up through here. Bring this down around here. Okay, let me see. Bring this back here. Maybe I'll put this in the back of it. So now what I've done is I've actually looped that soutache going behind. And that's usually what you'll do to end them. And I don't know if... Put this back down through here. There's the hole in the bead. All right, let's bring that back out. Alrighty, let's go. Make sure we try to, it's kind of best if you know where these ends are so that you don't have to untangle them, but with the fire line being clear, it is frequently difficult to see that. Right. That actually just went through that center bead as well, which is fine by me. I'm just going to bring that straight through there and then tighten that up. Now I'm over on this side. So I'm just going to come through. Actually, I'm going to put a seed bead in there. Put a seed bead in between. Bring it right up through here. Then I'm going to take this back through that oval bead that's kind of bringing the two sides together. If I come down, then what I can do is actually bring this around. If I angle, take that out of that bead first. If I bring it through that bead, and then angle it down through here, that will let me bring this whole set that I moved. I'm going to put that behind again and kind of bring that in there. Oops. This is a little bit like wrestling with an octopus. The first couple of times that you do it, it gets a little bit better. I may have started with a little bit more than I needed on this one. And I generally start with anywhere from about 6 to 9 inches. That seems to yield a product that's a size I like. The other thing is, you can build these things modularly. You know, you can build 8 or 10 of these little individual units and then kind of join them together in a single piece. And if you go over to that Facebook page, that Battle of the Beadsmith page, you'll see a lot of pieces that do just that. That's not really going into anything, but you know what? Let me just, what I'm going to do is bring these 3 over to the top here, and I'm going to come through. It's kind of interesting just to play around with it and kind of let it go where it will. I think most designers have a more finite plan in their head when they start these things. For some reason, that never works for me. All right, this guy I can do something with later, but let me just go back to there. We just want to tack this through there one more time. And I do want to take it through this threesome that's coming in the back. There we go. All right. One of the things that I like about kind of going back behind and then coming back out in front again is that it gives some depth and some texture to this thing. And I tend to do, it's almost like needle sculpting. I don't know, most of you probably haven't worked on dolls or that sort of thing, but needle sculpting can give you some real interesting effects when you're playing around with this. This is going to be the top of my piece, so I'm not too worried about what's going on with those stitches in the back, because that's all going to get covered up anyway. And that was another thing. When I first started this, I thought, oh, well, let me see if I can make it really, really neat on both sides. Thinking that if I made it nice and neat on both sides, I wouldn't have to put a backer on it. This stuff is so soft that even when it's finished, you have to put the backer on it just to firm it up a little bit. All right, now I'm going to put, I think, what am I going to put in there? No, I don't like him. I don't think I want another miracle bead, though. Yeah, I do. I'm going to put another one of those guys in there, even though he's the same color. That's why when you're working on this, I find that I just like to have an assortment of beads in, a colorway out and available, and you can just kind of choose what you want as you go along. Okay, so what does that give us? That gives us that guy. And I think what I'm going to do now is come back through that miracle bead. I can find the hole in it. Come back through that stack on the top. And let me see. Just kind of put that needle out of the way for a minute. I'm going to bring this set behind or on top. At some point in time, you don't have to have them all encased. Sort of when you get to the end, I'm going to actually come behind. And you know what? I think I'm going to end it here. I think I'm going to put this one behind, and then I'm just going to trim them off. I kind of like the way that looks. So, let me just bring these three back here. Kind of see what I'm, go through these three. And what you need to do now is just tack those ends in the back. And I just stuck myself with a needle. All right, got that. And I also have to do the same with these three ends. Let me just kind of get the needle out of the way. So this one's on the inside, that's in the middle. Just kind of bring those down there. These are going to get cut and covered, so you don't really have to have them all that neat and tidy. But you don't really want them to add too much bulk to the back of the piece. So I try to kind of spread them out a little bit rather than keep them stacked. So I'm just going to go back through this one more time. I'm going to take that back over here. And then I'm just going to end this. What I'll do is just knot that off. Just put a knot through there. Tighten that up. Okay, so let me just trim that end. And now, before I actually cut these ends, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on them, because remember what I was saying about this polyester frame, something awful. And I'm finding that I really like this white craft glue. As you can see, I'm just using Elmer's. I wouldn't use your E6000. Maybe some of the fiber glues that are out there might be okay. And I kind of like these little paint brushes. these little spongy things to noodle them around with. A good nail polish is also another good choice on that. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my nippers to nip those ends off. If you have a good sharp pair of scissors, that's good for those too. And you'll want to let that set up. So this is what I call the base. Now the base is not finished by any means. It's wobbly. It's okay, but there's so much more that you can do to it. And so doing this base is, to me, sort of the pedestrian part of this. Now I get to the pizzazz part of it is I get to decorate it. I get to actually add some interesting stuff to it. In this, I think I'll make a pendant. I'll probably end up putting a jump ring on the top of it and allowing it to hang that way. You know, you can kind of play around with them and see which way you like it. But this one, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to let it go that way. So in the decorating part of this, the decorating phase, the pizzazz phase, if you will, I'm going to start with a longer piece of fireline than what I have on there. And the first thing I'm going to do is edge it. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh my God, I will never ever be able to do this, because those of you who know me know that I don't work with little tiny seed beads. It's just not my gig. And when I saw little tiny seed beads going around the outside of these things, I thought, oh, I am not going to want to do that. This is so much easier than I thought it was going to be that it's actually kind of fun. I'm going to put a figure-8 knot in the end of this thread, which is, it just makes it slightly larger than an overhand knot. And the reason I do that is because an overhand knot tends to be small and want to pull through this stuff. So I got my knot, got that trimmed. And I happen to have a bunch of size 13 Charlottes in gold. And since I used a gold Soutache on the center here, I'm going to want to use that. Now I tend not to put beads all the way around everywhere. I've got some here at the top and some on the bottom. If you want to outline it the whole place, you can do that. It doesn't work for me. I kind of like playing around with these little guys. So what I'm going to do is come in, let me see. Yeah, I'm going to start it there. I'm going to come in from the outside. And what you will do, once you get the knot hung up, oops, okay, is you'll pick up 4 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4 beads. No, it's only 3. And this one doesn't want to go over the needle. It's always something. So now I'm back to 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the one that doesn't go over the needle. Let's put him out there so we don't pick him up again. 4 beads. And that one doesn't want to go over the needle either. These are really, really tiny. You might want to trade up to an 11 or something, but I happened to find that I liked the way these looked. What if I brought any bigger ones with me? All right, 4. And what you will do is place those 4 along the edge. This is my front. And where the foursome ends, go through the Soutache. Oops. Let's see, I wasn't watching where that end was, and it went around that whole thing. And now what I have to do is come back up between two. So this needle now has to come back up, split the 4, and then come back through 2 with the needle and pick up 4 more. And you'll just continue to repeat that. Add 4, come back through 2. So there's 4. Oops. This, let me get this a little bit shorter here. Pull that. All right. All right, so kind of just go down through the Soutache. Come back up so that you split that the last 4 that you put on. 2 up. Come back through those 2. Oops. Slide those back. This again is a little bit easier with maybe a size 11 seed bead. Like I said, these are 13 charlottes. Put a 4 more on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you can see, that's already starting to make that elegant line of beads that's going around the outside. And it just puts such a finishing touch on this. The other thing I like to do is embellish on top, and we'll do that as soon as we get some of this done. The key to this, again, is to go through the entire stack. Bring it in. So then you're going to hold that, come back up, split off those 2 that are at the bottom. Sometimes easier said than done. Go through the 2. Oops. My needle just wants to bounce off those beads. Let me see if I can get that in there. Yep, got it through 1. Can't get it through the other. There we go. Pick up 4. Yep, something doesn't want to go through the needle. The other thing I find when I put this edging on is that just by stitching through the Soutache more and more and more, you end up stabilizing it a little bit. It really is flexible. That's a good way to put it. It's kind of squishy until you get those backers on it. And so 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. That guy's not going to go on. Let's find another one. 4. Oops. Now what I did on that was I let a pigtail get caught in the fiber, the fire line as I was bringing it in, and you don't want that to happen. And the other thing is, I brought that one in too short. Yeah, I'm going to have to take that one out. What happened was I should have put the stitch out here, and I put it a little bit too close, and so it made this kind of loop. So let me just pull that one out. And that's, again, back to the beauty of using the fire line for this, because when you make a misstitch, this stuff is just so much easier to reload than something that's a non-monofilament. So the key is to get this spaced right. So that's the end of it. I'm going to pull that right in there. There we go. And then I've got to come back up through 2. Yes. And go through these 2. Now I'm actually going to end that one because I've got a seed bead on the outside there, and that's kind of a cool look. So I'm going to end that there. And then, so you can see we've got this line of elegant little beads going around there. And I think I'm not going to take them around the bottom. I think I'll come over and pick it up kind of here and go up against that outside. So I'm just going to loop. See, I'm going to go over there. I'm just going to loop across here. And I'm not going to worry about the back of this. Again, this back's going to be covered, so taking this stitch all the way across that back isn't going to bother me right now. As long as I don't get it too... Okay. So now I'm on the other side, and I need to bring it out here. And then I just need to add the 4 seed beads along the outside, just like I did on the other side. Oops, somebody doesn't want to go through. This is why I don't like to work with little tiny seed beads. You have to pick them up one at a time, and they're a pain in the neck. I know that there's some women out there who just love these things, and that's all they work with. And you ladies are going to have a fabulous time with this whole Soutache concept. For me, on the other hand, this is sort of painful. That one's not going to go through. Okay. So, again, I need to line it up. I've got a knot in the tail of this. I need to get that out. There we go. And I have to split the 2 off the end. Come back through those 2. Oops. Try to avoid picking up the Soutache there. And then load another 4. Oops, that one's not going to fit. The problem with a really sharp needle is when you're working on one of these bead mats and you're trying to pick these beads up, the needle tends to want to catch on the mat. So when you're using a regular beading needle, that doesn't happen quite as often as it does. This happens to be a silk needle. So it's really, really sharp. It's meant to go through dense things. Come back up through 2. Come through those 2 on the end. pick up 4. Now I happen to be using the same color and size bead on this. Another thing that looks really cool on a design element is to mix up your colors or to mix up your sizes. Maybe use a size 13 and a size 11, or a size 11 seed and a size 8 seed. There's almost no end to the creativity, and I just find that you've got to get that base made. Once the base is made, just adding the decorative part is really fun. And it just kind of brings them to life. Come on, you. Sometimes you just kind of have to split them apart there. Being a Charlotte with a facet, these tend to want to flop a little bit differently than a regular seed would. Just can't get the whole. There we go. So anyway, let me, as I walk through this, talk to you a little bit about where you can get these materials. And obviously the beads that I'm using are just any kind and size of bead that I want. I probably wouldn't go real large on it. I might not go anything larger than like an 8 or a 10 millimeter round, and this maybe 12 or 15 millimeter seed pearl. As far as the Soutache is concerned, anyone who stocks products from the Beadsmith will carry this. Now I have, my website is Moss Hollow Pottery, which is MOSSHOLLOW pottery.com. And I stack this entire line that's from the Beadsmith. I stock all the styles and the colors of the Soutache. I have the needles. I have the backer. So I only came through one of those. I've got to get through the second one on there. It's quite the rage right now, and I think that probably that battle of the Beadsmith is what caught the eye of the American. It really does fall under the category of bead embroidery, so if you're a bead embroiderer, this might not be new to you. It might be something that you're perfectly familiar with. But most of the magazines haven't shown it too much. I do know that Amy is either has a book that has been published or is about to be published by Kalmbach on this. So she's your go-to source on the how-to on this sort of thing. Let's get that out of there. One of the things that's nice about this polyester is that it's really, really soft. It's easy to work with. It comes in, I don't know, 50 or 60 different colors. I mean, there are a lot of colors on this polyester, so that you can work all of these really fabulous color palettes. And the thing that's nice about this Beadsmith program is that the polyesters and the rayons and the rayon metallics have all been tested so that they work well together. The sizes are good. The needles, for the most part, slide through them all very well. And there's a lot to be said for that. I know when I first started this, I had some stuff from Europe that I just had hanging around in some old quilting supplies, and it was much more difficult to work with. All right, so let's go up here. Whoops, caught that guy. You will find after you've done some of these and you're not on camera that they actually go fairly quickly. But you do, the first couple of times, want to give yourself plenty of time to work on it, and you want to take a break because it can get a little intense when you're just trying to figure out what am I doing and is this working, and you stick yourself with a needle half a dozen times. Let me see. I think I'm going to go up and around. And you can kind of push them around and even them up a little bit if they're, let me see where I am on this. I think I'm just going to take this to about there, so maybe 4 or 6 more. Let me put 4 on and see what happens. Not that guy. There we go. What did I do there? Somebody isn't where he belongs. We'll take care of that later. All right. Let's bring this down here. I've got a thread that's running across here, and I'm not quite sure where or when it came from. Again, this is sort of the drawback of using the clear fire line. As long as that's on the back, I can just kind of tuck that away. So that's cool. All right, so let me go back to putting 2 through here. Come back through these 2. And I think 4 more. Nope. Bring that around, and it'll go down right through there. Bring that needle out the back. And I may have gotten that one caught. Okay, so I'm going to end that one right where that is. I'm going to bring this in the back, and I'm just going to end this being, see that I'm not going through the valley part of that soutache is why that was a little bit tough. But I just want to tie this off. And what I'm going to do is trim this, and then I'm going to load another piece of fire line, and then I'm going to do some embellishing on the top. Okay, so now what I've done is I've reloaded my my fire line, and all I'm going to do now is embellish a little bit of this top, and I've just put a bunch of seed beads out here to do that. And what I tend to do is look at where there are gaps in the pattern, and what I'm going to do is come up through the back here and I'm actually just going to pick up, let me see what color I want. I'm going to pick up 3 of these. And I'm just going to go right down on the other side and form a little pile of beads on top of where this one will lay flat once I get the backer on it. And basically all I'm doing is picking out spots where I think it might be fun to have some other little beads. So I'm going to bring my needle up on the bottom of make sure that's on the back there. What did I do this time? Da-da-da. All right. No clue what I did, so what I'm going to do is take that out and start that over again. I thought I had that on the back. There it is. Now I'm on the front. So I'm going to be on the front of this kind of blue world sort of shaped bead, if you would. Reload this one more time. And now what I'm going to do is pick up 3 of the gold Charlottes. Three of the gold Charlottes. Oh, that one's not going to go through. How about this one? Nope. Third time's a charm. And then I'm just going to go down on the other side of it. You just need to make sure that you catch a little bit of the soutache as you're going through. And what it does is it just adds a little bit of dimension and a little bit of detail. I'm going to put some on the other side of that too. Let me make sure I don't do what I did the last time. So I'm going to bring the needle up through here. I'm going to add, let's see what this color does. Nope, I'm going to go with that gold again. I find if I add more than 3 when I make this little pile that it tends to be too much. So 2 or 3 is usually a good number when you're trying to do this sort of what I call pizzazz embellishment on it. So see how that just kind of gave 2 little. And this one I'm just going to let go through because I kind of like having that hole in there. And I think that's it. I think I'm going to call that one done. So what I'm going to do is flip this over and just tie this off again. And then, now a lot of soutache artists will stitch their backer on. I don't. The reason I don't is because then it means you've got to do a stitching all the way around the edge. And I don't like to have a beaded stitch all the way around the edge. It's just, it doesn't appeal to me. So what I'm going to do is just trim that and then get those out of the way. Now, I had used some micro suede to back these with, and I was not happy with it. So I have just purchased a synthetic leather. It's called Black Panther, and it has kind of a polyester on the back of it. And I'm going to use this today and see how that goes. So let me just lop a piece of this off to get this started with. Okay, so now what I've done is I've just cut a piece of this off so that I have a workable size piece. At home I would have actually just laid the whole thing out and been very frugal with this. Regular ordinary ballpoint pen. Just go around the outside of this. What you're doing is just creating a pattern of what you're going to cut out to put on the back. It doesn't have to be exact, but you do want it close. Okay, so I've got that. I've got a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to cut around what I traced. All right, see where we are in this. Turn this back over. Put this up here. And I kind of did this so that the leather would be on the inside. I was kind of arguing with myself as I was driving down here today. Did I want the leather against my skin, or do I want the polyester against my skin? And since this is a new product, I'm not sure. And I don't really want it to show on the front side, so I'm going to trim that a little bit more on the inside on this. Now, the other thing that you might want to do is stitch a jump ring into the top to use as your bail. I actually prefer to glue a bail on it at the end. I just kind of like the way that it's finished. It's a personal thing. It's up to you. All right. Let's see what we've got on that. So we glue that there. Glue that there. I just need to make these two a little more finite. Make this a little more finite going up here. Like I said, a lot of Soutache artists will actually stitch this backer on. It doesn't work for me. All right. A little bit at the top there, but I'll get that when I'm done. You can always trim this a little bit. Now, again, this is where I use the craft glue. Just use a little bit of Elmer's glue. These little foam paint things are so good for this. And it really is good to get this all the way out to the edge. Kind of get that. Set that aside. Turn it around. Flip in. And then you'll glue that on. Kind of. Now the thing that's cool when you use a different color is in this area right here, the black actually shows through, and that kind of gives it some depth. So what I'll do is turn that over, kind of straighten it up, mush it down, let it dry, and then once that's dry, I'll take a fine pair of scissors and trim this area and this area where it's showing, and then I'll just glue a bail onto it. But that's really the whole part of that. Let me just show you. If you wanted to stitch a jump ring into it, you would stitch the jump ring in before you put the backer on it. Now this is that micro suede that I was saying that I didn't care for so much. But that's really all there is to working with the Soutache. You can do some overbeading that goes like this. Some of the little piles, you can actually just pull your beads out as you go along. And it's pretty much just have a ball. So I'm Ann Dulker, and I thank you for sticking with me through the video on Soutache.